Welcome in to Palmetto Sports Daily. I've safely returned to work. No cat, no dog like I was yesterday with them in the frame, working from home, but we still have that dog in us as your panel, ready to deliver all this hard-hitting sports news. I'm Carmine Jamay here at Fox Carolina in Greenville, joined by our star-studded crew. We got Rick Henry in Columbia, Teagan Brown in Myrtle Beach, and Kevin Bilodeau in Charleston. And the first order of business, before we get to more of Dabo's epic rant on the timeline of the Luke Farrelly fiasco, the transfer who was part of the Tigers, then went to Ole Miss. We're going to break down some of his ideas, Dabo Swinney, that is, to fix college football as it pertains to the calendar. But first, we want to talk about the calendar of games that they have coming up for next season, because we just found out Clemson football's full schedule. So we're going to pop it up, highlight a few elements, some differences from what we've seen in years past, and get our take on it. Starting off at LSU September 5th, so they're not playing the first actual week of the college football season. So you'll notice Clemson only has one bye week this year compared to the two that they had last season and in seasons since they implemented that 2 bye week schedule. So Clemson will actually have its bye week, you could say, the first week of college football before at LSU and Lane Kiffin. That will be a coaching chaos there, and maybe we even see some paparazzi there for Lane Kiffin's first game as LSU head coach after infamously leaving Ole Miss during their playoff run. Then it scales back a little bit, Georgia Southern, then North Carolina, which will be Kevin's favorite all-time coach, the Patriots legend, Bill Belichick, taking his 6 Super Bowls as a head coach, will make his first appearance in Death Valley as a college coach after facing off against Clemson and losing that one 38-10 last year in Chapel Hill. Then Clemson's first road trip for an ACC game on the West Coast will be at Cal in Berkeley, and then hosting the college football playoff runner-ups in Mario Cristobal and Miami. No Carson Beck. His college eligibility is finally run out after a lifetime of playing college quarterback. Then a bye week, then Charleston Southern at home. And if we can go to the next round of games for the second part of the season, we will also see that Clemson, after the Charleston Southern game, will then, they will host Virginia Tech. There you go right there, and that'll be an interesting one. James Franklin's first game as head coach in the ACC, and first matchup against Clemson as part of the ACC, and ever, even though he was Penn State's former head coach. So first matchup for him against the Tigers. And then at Doak Campbell Stadium on Halloween, where Clemson has won 4 straight games in a row at Florida State. They'll go up north to Teagan Brown's alma mater, the Orange, at Syracuse, and then hosting Georgia Tech. So trying to get back on that winning streak. You guys will recall that at the start of last season, Georgia Tech snapped Clemson's 9-game winning streak against them with that 55-yard field goal to beat them at Georgia Tech at the buzzer. And then Duke, at Duke, Clemson trying to get some revenge from that one too after losing 46-45 to Duke at home this season. The ACC champion Duke football team. That still sounds kind of strange to say. And then hosting South Carolina for the season finale the week of Thanksgiving at home, trying to improve their record there, where Clemson has now won 9 of the last 11 meetings. So I'll toss it to you, Rick, first. What stands out to you on top of the notables that I made there from Clemson football's schedule?
Well, the games that, will have my antenna up, so to speak, LSU and Miami, because these are teams that could potentially be in the running for the college football playoff. And if Clemson can beat those teams, then we'll know, okay, maybe the Tigers are back to being a contender for the ACC championship and to also get into the playoffs. And as far as the other games, well, Georgia Tech, Duke, they lost to both of those teams last year, and Duke somehow wound up winning the ACC championship. So we'll see if they can get their get back against those teams. If they continue to struggle against teams of those caliber, we'll know that Dabo hasn't fixed it yet. So LSU, Miami, and, of course, South Carolina. Those are the 3 games that will have my attention. Teagan?
Yeah, I think what really catches my attention, first of all, them only having 1 bye week, not playing that first week of the season, kind of interesting for Clemson. I'm curious how that's going to work out just in comparison to other teams who are going to have 2 bye weeks throughout the season. Even though that first week is kind of one. A game that catches my eye, the Virginia Tech game with James Franklin being there. I know Brent Pry, the previous head coach, took on the DC role there. So kind of curious how that team is going to work out this year. Of course, Syracuse catches my eye. Clemson lost to Syracuse this season, but in that game was when Steve Angeli tore his Achilles and was no longer there for the season. And then Syracuse only won 3 games. And then, of course, the South Carolina game, a huge one every single year. Always super duper fun to watch. Clemson having the home advantage this year. Definitely great to see. What about you, Kevin?
To back this up, but I feel like Clemson always struggles in these Thursday and Friday night games. So that Syracuse game, which we don't know for sure, but it could possibly be a Friday night game, that one is kind of circled. And also that Cal game in late September. I mean, we don't know the start times for that yet, but I'm guessing that's going to be a West Coast start time of 10 o'clock. So that could really throw Clemson off, considering it's a short week anyway, and you're playing on a Friday. You're traveling across the entire country, going to Cal, starting a game that wouldn't start till maybe 10 o'clock Eastern time. So that one is kind of interesting to me because I don't think I recall Clemson with a start time that late at any point in the last decade or so. Plus, Carmine mentioned it, Bill Belichick coming to Clemson and playing in Death Valley against the Tigers. I know everyone's going to call me a homer, but I'm expecting them to have at least a solid turnaround this year and make them a bowl team and put up 8 or 9 wins. So I'd be interested to see how Belichick does against Clemson this year, Carmine.
Yeah, that'll definitely be very interesting, just the magnitude of the coaching matchup. And just to put a bow on the schedule as well, Virginia Tech is 0-6 against Dabo Swinney's Clemson Tigers since he took over. So how about that? Welcome to the ACC. If James Franklin is able to dethrone Dabo, give him his first loss to Virginia Tech in his career. And that's an interesting point, Kevin, about the non-Saturday games for Clemson. I know it adds a bunch of challenges. I'm not sure about the numbers, but at least recently, this past season on Friday was their only ranked win for the Clemson Tigers over a ranked Louisville team. So at least in that instance, it worked out, but maybe historically we can dive into that as well. But really, Dabo trying to change the course of history, so to speak, with this press conference. He outlined the timeline of the tampering allegations against Ole Miss, and we'll keep updating that as the NCAA investigation proceeds. But then that was a 20-minute rant on the timeline of Luke Farrelly and Ole Miss's tampering with him when he was signed to the Tigers, allegedly. And but he went on a 30-minute rant reading from basically How to Fix College Football manifesto that he had written down, which I was so happy that he did because he told some of us off the record for high school signing day, and he was talking about some of these details that he ended up bringing forward and telling to the world using this press conference, laying out in about half an hour ways to fix the transfer portal, ways to try and help college coaches not have to leave their teams, calling out Lane Kiffin by name, saying he's basically just a product of the environment and the college football calendar that's been set up, where if you don't take these coaching jobs earlier, you're going to miss out, even though your team might be in the college football playoff and making a national championship run. But here's his idea on top of moving the transfer portal window from where it currently is in early to mid-January. He wants to move it to late February or early March, and also wants to implement these rules right here.
My proposal is that everybody gets one free transfer with no consequence. Players whose head coaches leave or the head coach is fired may also transfer without a consequence. If you graduate, you can transfer without a consequence. For all other instances, players must sit one season following their transfer. This would mitigate, not eliminate, but this would mitigate the tampering and again, in some cases, the extortion with agents trying to renegotiate every single year. However, I want to say this. Any player who does have to sit a year, they can have that year of eligibility back reinstated upon graduation. This would incentivize graduation and minimize this 3-4 time transfer situation that to me is plaguing college football.
So that's just a small part of, like I said, 30 minutes uninterrupted of Dabo Swinney laying out his plans and ideas to fix college football, knowing all well that it will require congressional legislation, NCAA rules, probably commissioners of these different leagues and conferences to participate in making these things happen. But I had somebody from the Clemson radio crew text me, I've never been more proud of Dabo than in these moments where this was right after he laid out the tampering timeline of Ole Miss and then went on another speech of how to fix college football, including 18 OTAs that he wants to be used whenever the coach and school wants to between March and July, not just the spring practice window that's set because these schools are on different timelines. And, also some plans as well to make the scholarship for college football players and the NIL money they accrue not accessible until 25 years old so they can make better decisions and hopefully have this to prepare their 30-year-old selves in the future for success and improve graduation rates as well, which Clemson leads the country in and is often lost in this whole discussion because we focus so much on the play itself. But and we have these full rants on foxcarolina.com for everybody to watch as well. But Kevin, your thoughts on the coach's ideas here to fix the game of college football and the chaos that we've seen?
Yeah, I think most of these recommendations from Swinney, they come from a good place. I think he's trying to help the game, but I don't like where most of them would lead to. Like you just mentioned, holding the kids' money until they're 25. Why should they have to wait out on their money until they're 25? They earn the money right now. They should get the money right now. If you don't like the way they're spending it, then you're his coach. Teach him how to do it better. The transferring, not being able to transfer but more than once, and then you have to sit out a year. I mean, coaches can leave anytime they want. If a coach can leave anytime he wants, a player should be able to leave anytime he wants. I understand that's frustrating for the coaches. If you don't like it, then sign him to multiple year contracts and try it that way. And, then the kid has to stay there. And if he wants to leave, then you can start going into litigation and stuff like that. So I understand where Dabo is taking all this from, and it's all good ideas. And most of this comes from the calendar. And that's the thing we've all been talking about is, the calendar is messed up and the transfer portal needs to be moved back or moved up. And again, in theory, these are all things that would help the game. But I still think even if you move everything up and it lines up the right way, you get in a situation like Lane Kiffin had. When LSU fires their coach, they're going to go after him no matter what time of the year it is. It just doesn't matter. So people are always going to try to short skirt around these rules whenever they're put down. So I just don't know if any of these are going to be helpful in the end, Rick.
Dabo, he had some good points there, but Carmine, you're right. You're going to have the conferences and everyone get together. And you're right, Kevin. I like the fact that players should be able to transfer whenever they want to, just like a coach can say, pack up his stuff and say, adios, I am out. All right, producer Nick says we've got to go to a break, so we're going to take a little time out, and we'll be right back with some high school football discussion on Palmetto Sports Daily.
Welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. We just spent last block talking all about college football, all the craziness of the portal and what Dabo wants to do. Let's continue on and talk about some high school football because Horry County Schools now has 3 new coaches. We've got a new one at Conway, St. James, and North Myrtle Beach. So let's start with Perry Woolbright, who is taking over at North Myrtle Beach, and he is coming from Clover High School. They went 22-13 in his time there. This is actually Woolbright's second time as a head coach at North Myrtle Beach. He was previously there from 2010 to 2013. He talked about how his parents now live in North Myrtle Beach, so that was part of his reason for wanting to come back here, being closer to them. That way they don't have to drive all the way to Clover on Friday nights to see his games. We've also got St. James, where Stephen Cagle will take over for the Sharks. He was an offensive assistant at Lexington, but he's also spent time on the sidelines at Dorman, White Knoll, and Ben Lippen. And then last but not least, Conway will be led by Jody Jennerette. Now, if that name sounds familiar, it's because I've talked about him on this show before. He used to be the head coach at West Florence. He was there 2 seasons ago before he left. And then this season, he actually spent time as an assistant at North Myrtle Beach. So a lot of people thought that was going to be his landing spot, but instead he will be in Conway, where the Tigers over the past 3 seasons have, I believe, 6 wins total. So they're hoping for a much better turnout than that this year in terms of wins. But you know, some new faces in high school football. I was kind of curious. I know, Rick, we were talking about Stephen Cagle in the break. Do you kind of know anything about him, what he's bringing to St. James?
During his time here, I can't remember if I had any interviews with him, but I know White Knoll in the past few years, they've been really good. Very familiar with Perry Woolbright, the new North Myrtle Beach coach. I can tell you will enjoy working with him. He's had a good bit of success, so yeah, very happy for him because I know he's got to love the fact, as you said, he'll be closer to his parents. Okay, I think it's time for another timeout. And when we come back, we're going to talk some Gamecock baseball and softball. And welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. And with all of these things that we're experiencing with the weather, it's like frigid here in Columbia. Looking forward to the springtime and baseball, softball. The Gamecocks open the baseball season February 13th when they begin a 3-game series with Northern Kentucky. It will also be the second year under head coach Paul Maneri. Now, when Maneri took the job, if you would have told me that the Gamecocks wouldn't make the playoffs in his first year, when you consider the success he had at LSU, a national championship, multiple SEC titles, and man, they didn't come close to making the postseason as they had like the worst season in USC baseball history, going 28-29, 6-24 in the conference. Now, the Gamecocks had their media day last week, and here's what Coach Paul Maneri had to say about turning things around for this program.
I feel very, very confident that we're going to be a lot better this year, but we have to prove ourselves. I mean, what happened last year is not acceptable here at the University of South Carolina. I know what the standards are. I know what the fans expect, and if I was a fan of the South Carolina baseball program, I would expect an awful lot as well. And it's our job now to win them back and to make them believe that we can have a championship caliber team. And I have all the confidence in the world that we can do that here. And I think this year is going to be a big step in the right direction.
Okay, now when fans attend these games early in the season, make sure you have a program because there are only 10 returning players and like 24 new guys coming in mainly out of the transfer portal. He's really beefed up the pitching staff. So we'll see if that can help uplift this program because right now they're at the bottom. Carmine, how much confidence do you have in Coach Maneri to get things headed in the right direction?
Yeah, good question, Rick. Well, I mean, based on what he's done in his career, he's done a lot of winning. 41st year he's entering as a head coach of a college baseball team, more than 1,500 wins, winningest active head coach. And like you said, those 27 newcomers rank as a top 5 transfer portal class in the country, according to some outlets. So he knows how to win. I think last year was a big adjustment, being first year on the job and coming out of retirement. So I at least expect to improve on their worst SEC performance ever with only 6 wins. Kevin, I have to be more optimistic than that going into this year.
I would say you have to be. There's not much more room to go down. But some of the things that happened last year really worried me and made me think that maybe this college game is past Maneri by at this point. We're going to get to see early on because, like you said, he's brought a lot of new guys into this program, more than 24. So at least he realized that he can't just sit on his laurels and hope that his coaching ability was going to turn things around with the guys he had. He went out, got new guys. Now we'll see if he got the right guys, Teagan.
Yeah, I mean, I think the overturn of a roster in this case is a good thing. I know sometimes when you look at teams and they've replaced all the guys, you wonder what they're going to do this year. But I think for South Carolina, it's this could be a positive for them. I mean, I hope that they can't go down from what happened last season, but I guess anything is possible, Rick.
Yeah, it's got to get better, right? Okay, we're going to take another time out, and we'll be right back here on Palmetto Sports Daily. Welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. Gamecock softball returns to action February 5th when they take on Virginia Tech. It'll be the second season for Ashley Chastain Woodard as the head coach. She played softball for South Carolina, and last season she took them to the Super Regionals. As a matter of fact, they were 1 out away in game 2 of their Super Regional against UCLA, 1 out away from advancing to the World Series. They lost that game, then lost game 3, so a lot of heartbreak to deal with over the offseason. Here's Coach Woodard on that disappointment.
You know, obviously we would change the outcome of it, but I think that we made a lot of really good decisions when it came down to it. You know, there was a few tough moments there at the end of the game on Saturday when we felt like we had won it, and we've had some team conversations just about the game's not over till the game's over. You know, you got to play to the last pitch, and on that stage you have to play your best into the last pitch. I think Sunday we just got beat. You know, we got shut out for the second time all year during the 2025 season on Sunday. So unfortunately, that's how we ended. So we definitely learned a lot. I think holistically, we learned what it felt like to really believe that our program is just as good as anyone in the country. And so I think you saw that on display at the Super Regional.
All right. Hey, good lesson learned. It's not over till it's over. And right now, we're over. Everyone have a good evening. We'll see you tomorrow.